Stephanie McKittrick is an author of the book Finally Free. Stephanie had 11 brain surgeries, 5 neck surgeries, and 7 abdominal surgeries. She joins me now to discuss what it was like to have a high-risk pregnancy and how she coped facing pressure to abort. Thanks, Stephanie, for joining me today. Now, while pregnant with your daughter Layla, you discovered she had CDH, which is congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and you were offered an abortion at the time. What was going through your mind when that happened?
Yes. Well, with me, there was two big things that were happening in my life. There was Layla's diagnosis and also my own diagnosis at the time. I had been diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which is extra fluid on the brain, and at that time, I couldn't really walk or talk, was constantly vomiting, and they were saying I needed to have an abortion to save my own life. But also, when they discovered her diagnosis, because she was at the extreme end of the condition, they were basically saying this child only has like a 25 to 30% survival chance. So if you just remove the abdominal mass so that you can have the surgery, and I was not willing to do that.
And you were obviously facing then fear for your own life and also Layla's life. How did you navigate that immense inner conflict, and what helped you push forward towards hope?
Yeah. No, and it wasn't an easy it wasn't an easy, thing, I'm gonna fight for my baby's life. It was a case of I had a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses that were coming to me on a daily basis that were telling me you're going to die. You need to have the termination of this child. You need to remove this child. And I had met different people throughout my life who had had abortions. And even though I had never had like an emotional invested decision, like response into one of these situations, I always knew that their lives had been forever changed by it. Their mental health wasn't good. They had a lot of ongoing issues, and I didn't want to be like that either. And I knew that I was facing a situation whereby most likely my child was going to die, but I didn't want to be left with a lifetime of what ifs. What if, so I think that is what is really, really important for women, especially who are in my kind of situation. They are only given this response of you need to remove the child, you need to abort the child and save your life. But no one is looking far enough down the path to say, how are we going to ease this mother's grief when that time comes? I know for me, I have photographs, I have blankets, I have little memories of time with her that the abortion would have taken. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but by far it was the best choice for me and for her, without a doubt.
Yeah, because she tragically didn't live. She only lived for 25 hours, I understand. And how
Yeah,
did you process that loss? It's a huge loss. And what brought you through to the other side?
yeah. Like, people do write books and things on how they grieved and what got them. But I think when you're going through it yourself, like, what anybody else does goes right out the window. For me, it was really difficult because I was fighting for my life. I was processing the the grief of losing my daughter. I was in a really, really toxic relationship. I fell into every sort of like label and, stigma that you get attached to a person. I was right there in it. And something that I would really, really want to get out there to any woman who is in any of these kind of situations that might be watching this, and maybe you're in that, is to know that there are people who will stand beside you. And that was the important thing, was I had women that were around me that were going to stand beside me. They weren't trying to judge me for not having an abortion. They weren't telling me that I was risking my life or anything like that. They were like, Stephanie, we're going to stand with you in your choices. And as then Layla did pass and the grief thing came after, literally you take it day by day. I don't think nobody can avoid grief. It's your brain processing what your body, your heart, and your mind has been through. You have to go through it. But the important thing is finding people around that will stand with you while you walk that path.
Yeah, I think that's so important. The community is vital, and in community we can heal as well and get that encouragement. And you mentioned that you fell into that category of stigma. Can you share a little bit about that, your background?
Yeah, I sort of have hit, I think, fell into every pit that anybody could fall into, and between, the disabilities and fighting for my own life, and, coming from a disadvantaged background, coming from a lifetime really of abuse and neglect, and then going on to this whole battle. And I was in a really, really abusive, very toxic relationship. And honestly, each day when I was waking up, I just couldn't understand how my life had gotten to that situation. But I got out. And I think that's the important thing, is sometimes we can find ourselves in really dark and really, really hard places. And it feels like we're never going to survive, or we're never going to get out, we're never going to see the light again. But I would just like to really, really encourage anybody who is in those places again, is that you can get out. There is life after grief. There is life after the hardships and the hard trials, and that we literally, you find yourself some good people, some praying people, and you push on out, and you just follow that.
And you mentioned about the abuse as well, and I'm sure there was coercion there. Was there coercion from just medical staff forcing you to have the abortion, or was there any family members or?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. So my family members were very supportive. They were, in faith before I was, and they could see that I was having, because I wasn't a Christian at the time when I was making these choices. And it was a real, I was trying to make everything really, really balanced. But yeah, on coercion, no, it was purely medical staff. And the consultants were quite angry with me when I refused to go. And bearing in mind, like, they wanted me to go to London, and it would have been a late term abortion. So I would have been giving birth to this, fully formed baby. It would have been horrendous. And it was a choice that they made on the brain surgery ward. And I was sitting Googling what is in an abortion. And when I actually educated myself that little bit more, I thought, you know what? It would be harder for me to live with the knowledge of what had been done to my baby than it would be for me to try and push through these next few months and see what our lives are going to be. And obviously, it didn't go the way that I wanted or that I had hoped. But as I had said before, I'm not left with a lifetime of what ifs. I know that she fulfilled her story, her part of her life on this earth, and I'm so glad for her.
Exactly. And from your perspective, what changes would you like to see in how medical staff or family members or loved ones talk to someone like you that was in a high risk situation with the baby?
Yeah. It's now, I will say the NICU staff who were there on the day that the Layla was alive, they were incredible. Like, they knew how to they knew how to manage the situation when we couldn't move. They told us how to move. Like, they knew everything. They were incredible. But in the run up to getting to this point, in the run up, while each day I was fighting for my life, each day we didn't know if I was going to live or die. Each day it literally was a fight for life for the two of us. But I would have had consultants, all men, and I will say they're maybe not as compassionate as what you would like to think that they are, given the roles that they're in. But they were saying, they were just making these remarks like, "You're going to have to turn off her life support. You need to remove this abdominal mass." And they kept referring to my daughter as an abdominal mass. And it was making me so angry, because I was like, this is my child that I am literally fighting for life for. And I actually think I threatened him at one point and told him that if he called her that again, there's going to be issues.
Yeah,
But
I don't blame you. I don't blame you
yeah,
for that.
but it is, and
Cheek.
it isn't easy, and I don't want to make out that but it was the most amazing thing. And honestly, the biggest thing that I took away from the whole experience was that I don't have a lifetime of what ifs. And see, even now, as Layla is like, she's part of our everyday. We talk about her all the time, but we have photographs of her. We have the blankets. We have all these little memories, even though she only lived for 25 hours. we knew her in those 25 hours and she knew us, abortion would have caused so much more disruption, grief, depression. It would have robbed us of all of those opportunities. And regardless of what any consultant says, I think mothers know.
Yeah,
Do they do?
inherently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. And what would you say directly to a mother watching today who's just after finding out, that she has a baby who's potentially high risk and abortion is your only option? What do you want her to know? What do you wish then someone had told you?
I wish somebody had told me to pray, if I'm honest. But at the time, there wasn't anybody around me who was going through what I was going through. There was no one who could give me that inside information, but I did find the charity CDH UK, and they had a group of other women who were in the UK. I was the only one in Northern Ireland who were all pregnant with these babies that had, 50-50, 30% survival chance. So we were all in this community, we were standing with each other, we were encouraging each other. And so one big thing that I would say to people is don't fight this alone. Make sure that you are connecting and you're trying to find people who are in the same fight as you, because I tell you, you'll do it a lot stronger and a lot better with other people who literally know what you people can have all the compassion in the world, but if they haven't walked your path, they're not walking it, they're not speaking from an educated place. It's a whole different ball game when you find people who have been through what you've been through.
Exactly. It's, yeah, that's so necessary. And do you think that this is an example of us not personalizing the unborn baby in the womb?
Yeah, absolutely, because the whole way when I was in hospital, as I had said, they kept referring to her as this abdominal mass, and it was just this issue that could just be removed from my body. And the way they would talk about her a lot was as if she was some kind of a tumor. And she wasn't, she was life, she was this beautiful little girl. And when I had her, she was absolutely gorgeous. She was stunning. And unfortunately, just not meant for life. But absolutely, I think people dehumanize babies in the womb as a way to try and cope with their grief. But what I think we need is more education around helping people walk through grief. As I said, nobody's going to escape grief. We can't. But if we teach more people how to help people walk that path, and, it's all right to have a bad day. It's okay to scream. If you need to scream, go scream somewhere. Do that, take yourself out to a field somewhere and just let it loose. I did it several many times. But yeah, too many people are dehumanizing babies in the womb as a way to negate themselves of either any responsibility or any kind of grief. And yeah.
And do you have a place to go and grieve the loss of your baby? Is she buried? Yeah, how do you process that?
Yeah. So obviously, when I've been speaking to other mothers who are going through a similar kind of battle, the big thing that they always say is that I don't think I can cope with burying a child. I don't think I can cope. But even though, yes, so I do have a grave for Layla, and it's lovely. It's decorated. It's a really quiet place that we can go to and just remember her and all of those things. Um, if we had gone for the abortion, then all I would have had would have been ashes. I know some people prefer ashes over actual graves, but for us, having that quiet, beautiful, still place to go to remember her, especially like birthdays and anniversaries, has been amazing, really, to be honest.
And I suppose for women who've had an abortion, they don't have anywhere like that to go.
No,
There's no place that they can find solace, really.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
and my heart grieves for those women, and a lot of them then who are women who are having abortions. It's almost as if their baby didn't matter, or their baby, it didn't exist, because it has just been removed before, life began. But those women, I think, have been really, it's such a disservice against them, because they deserve a place to go and grieve, even though obviously they haven't followed a path that I would have followed, but they deserve to grieve the loss of their baby as well, and that place of respect. But again,
Yeah.
abortion doesn't give you that.
Yeah, I think the medical professionals have lied to them and told them that,
Yeah.
it's going to be painless, pain-free, and you'll feel grand after it. And really, there's a lot of guilt that's buried underneath
Yeah.
that denial for women.
No, and I'll tell you, so Layla lived for 25 hours after she had died, and I was, about to start going through all the brain surgeries and things. Your body knows when it's being pregnant, and your body knows when that baby is no longer there. And I think one of the cruelest things is that your body is literally looking for the baby that it had been carrying, that it had been nurturing, and there's like this deep longing that comes. And for me, it was really quite horrific. But again, the comforting things that I had during those times was that I had people that were around me, but I also had my photographs, I had the blankets, there was no room for what ifs in our stories. I knew, so these things, they really, really matter. They really matter when you're going to go through these processes. And you might not be able to change if your child is going to live or die, but by finding that out, you can just remove a lot of heartache and what ifs off your life. And I'm telling you, the difference would be incredible.
Wow, that is incredible, actually. Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your story. It was incredible, and it's going to change a lot of lives and destinies. So thank you so much
Yes. No,
again for
thank you.
coming on the show. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.